From the grind to the glory, one man's journey proves that heart, hustle, and determination change the game. This is Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., where adversity is met head-on and champions are made. Here's George.
Welcome to Catch as Catch Can. I'm George Tinsley Sr., former professional athlete, entrepreneur, author, and your host. This is a space where we sit down with leaders who face real challenges, learned real lessons, and kept moving forward.
Turning obstacles into opportunity.
Hello, once again. Welcome, Marques Ogden. Marques is a former NFL player turned inspirational keynote speaker, founder and CEO of Ogden Ventures, LLC, five-time best-selling author, best business coach, and host to Get Authentic with Marques Ogden. After experiencing a career-ending setback and losing nearly $3 million in a failed business venture, he rebuilt his life from ground up. Today, he uses those hard-earned lessons to inspire leaders and teams worldwide. Ogden has delivered keynotes for more than 90 venture capital 500 companies, Fortune 500 companies, including Amazon, Goldman Sachs, Intel, JP Morgan Chase, and Home Depot. His story has been featured in USA Today, Forbes, Cheddar News, and Authority Magazine. Through his work, he has empowered audiences to embrace challenges, grow through adversity, and transform setbacks into opportunities for lasting success. Marques, welcome to the program.
How are you, sir? Thank you very much for having me on, George.
Well, I appreciate having the opportunity to get to know you and having our audience to get to know you and who you are and what you represent. Let's start off by just giving us a little bit of history about Move Like a Bison. What does that mean?
So, George, thank you for asking. I am a Howard University Bison graduate. My father is also, or was also, I'm sorry, he passed away in 2006, a Howard University Bison graduate. And the bison, George, is the only animal that charges directly into the eye of the storm. It's the only animal. So when a storm is coming, a bison, whoever the bison lead of the herd, he gets the herd together and then they put their hoofs into the ground and they go directly towards the storm. Because the bison believes the fastest way out of a storm is through a storm. They've always believed that. So they say, well, if the storm's coming, we're not going to run from it. We're not going to hide from it. We're going to take it head on. This way we can get through it faster and less scathed. And I tell people, if more people would actually do that, right, George, when a problem arises, don't run. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't go hide. Attack the problem head on. If you hide or run or try to turn away, the problem only exacerbates and it gets bigger and a lot more hard to manage or take care of. So I love that because I'm a Howard University Bison graduate. I was inducted. My father and I are the only father and son inducted into Howard's Athletic Hall of Fame. My dad went in for the track as a shot putter. I went in for football. And I actually have, George, a bronze bison that was gifted to me, who I earned for being inducted into Howard's Athletic Hall of Fame in October of 2022.
Man, that's outstanding. That is the first time that I've heard that story and the enthusiasm behind the story. My niece is a Howard graduate, and of course, we know Kamala was a Howard graduate.
She sure was.
Yes, so quite interesting. My son went to Morehouse, and so I don't know if they have that same type.
No, if I'm not mistaken, George, they're the Morehouse Tigers. But again, if I'm not mistaken, that's where Spike Lee went to college.
It is. It's where Spike went. So great intro. Walk us through how you got started.
I was born in Washington, D.C. I went to Cheryl Phillip Ogden, my father, and Cassandra Sneed Ogden, my mother. And I was the second child. I have an older brother, Jonathan Ogden, who played in the National Football League for 12 years. He was the Baltimore Ravens' first draft pick ever in 1996. But it's really interesting, George. We were raised by a single parent. So when I was 8 years old, our mom and dad divorced, and our mom left. And our dad raised us by the time I was 8 and to the time I was going forward in my life. So we got raised by a single father. And it was amazing because our father taught me so much, right, George, about three key things. Number one, respect women at all times. Number two, respect yourself at all times. Number three, education over sports. So I was very fortunate to have such a loving, caring father, and my mom's parents, my maternal grandparents, were huge in raising me and my brother as well. And that was everything I needed, George, to get the type of start in life where I had the understanding of education and hard work and discipline. And that allowed me to then leave St. John's College High School and then go on to Howard University and play for the Bison. And then, of course, I got drafted into the National Football League by the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Interesting, very interesting. You mentioned your early childhood, being raised by your father, and some of the obstacles. Your brother is older, I'm correct?
Yes, my brother he'll be 52. No, sorry, he's 52 right now. So yeah, he's 50. I'm sorry, he's 52.
Okay. So as you're growing up, what were some of the early challenges that you were running into, that helped motivate you? Obviously, your father and your brother being there to help guide, but what are some of the other challenges that you faced?
You know what, George? What was really difficult was when our parents divorced, my dad got sick. My dad ended up having kidney failure. My dad was a very large individual. At his heaviest, George, in college, he weighed about 450 pounds as a defensive nose guard for the Bison. So unfortunately, my dad had a lot of health challenges. He lost weight a lot, then gained it back, lost it a lot, gained it back. So my dad's kidneys failed. So I was probably going into like my 8th grade year or my freshman year of high school. And between my dad's health declining, he ended up not being able to keep a job. So it was very difficult growing up. We were in a very well-off household early in my life with my parents being together. And then from time of 8 to about 12 or 13, we were okay because my dad had money put away. But when I got into, like I said, middle school on into high school, all my dad's money and financial resources were gone. So it's very, very difficult for us to live. We scrounged a lot. It was hard. And I never told anybody, not my grandmother, my grandfather, not even my brother, because my brother was already gone off to college at that time at UCLA. So I didn't tell anybody what was going on and how hard it was. So, George, that was a lot because, again, we couldn't pay bills at times. Luckily, my brother got drafted to the National Football League when I was a junior in high school. And when that happened, my brother took care of my father and the bills, and we were able to live a healthy lifestyle at that time. But there was about a good point of like 3 to 4 years, right, George? It was very difficult to live life. So seeing my father, who was a very proud man, very educated man, very hardworking man, to see him struggle the way that I did between, I said, 8th grade to like 11th grade, it was very challenging. And it made me realize, right, George, how in life we have to just keep pushing no matter what. And my father did that, but it was hard. But he taught me a lot about how to be resilient, how to have the Bison mindset and never give up.
Right. Now, growing up in that area, you mentioned Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, and your high school career and so forth, that you were matriculating through. You played in high school. You developed a mindset, as you mentioned, of survival. What helped those learnings? Did they help you transform your career, both educationally and athletically, through that next step of high school and into college?
Oh, yeah, George. I mean, seeing what I saw, it made me understand how important education was, because what it told me is that in life, you have to be ready to pivot. One of my favorite quotes is by General Dwight D. Eisenhower. The plan was useless. The planning was indispensable. And what I believe General Eisenhower meant is we all have a plan in life. But life is never straight line. It's not linear. It's not going to give us everything we want when we want it. So what I believe that quote means and how I look at it is that you have to be ready to pivot. And so what I found, seeing my father go through what he went through, I learned how to adjust. I learned how to pivot. Again, right, George? I was a former professional athlete for 6 years. I didn't know what I was going to do after that. I got into construction, had some success, and then I failed, which I now see as a learning lesson. And then I moved to Raleigh, struggled and worked a couple jobs, got fired, had to come this and had no money and was bankrupt and broke, all this stuff. Nobody could have ever told me, right, George, I would have ended up being a professional keynote speaker, business coach, corporate consultant, podcaster, and best-selling author. I had the pleasure yesterday, George, of interviewing Cuttino Mobley on my podcast, Get Authentic with Marques Ogden. And Cuttino talked about he knew Kobe Bryant from the age of about 11 or 12. They grew up together in the Philadelphia area. And he said he saw the Mamba mentality at a young age before the entire world saw it. And so he learned how to really be the type of person in life, right? George, have that mindset to adjust, to pivot, to tweak, and make sure you're always doing and being innovative. So seeing my father struggle, George, it made me realize how important education is, but not just that, being able to pivot when, not if, George, when life knocks you down.
Right. And we go back to your professional career as you started with the Ravens. And as you go through those 6 years, walk us through what your mindset was at that particular point. And you mentioned, the career-ending injury that you had. Had you started planning as you started out? Tell us what your thought process was. How long did you think you were going to play and so forth?
So, George, when I left high school, I got one offer to college to play college football for the Howard University Bison. And I was so excited because my dad was a Howard University Bison as well. So I had the legacy to continue the Ogden name at an amazing institution of higher learning and athletics. When I finished playing football at Howard, I was a 4-year starter at right tackle. I played right tackle, left tackle. I even played center my last year in college. I was just so excited for the opportunity to be in the National Football League. And when I got drafted into the NFL, what it told me, George, was I had the skill set, I had the ability to be a professional athlete. What I needed to get myself trained in was how to have the mindset of how to be a professional athlete and make that everything that I do. And I did that. And so I really felt I had an opportunity to play a while in the NFL. I mean, nobody goes and says, I'm just going to play for a year and be gone. I mean, like, you want to have that type of right mindset. And so what I learned, George, after my first year and adjusting to the speed, the size, the strength, all the things I had to learn to adjust to, that I could do this. I could play this game. And what I did, George, is I just took it one day at a time. Every time I went to the football field or to the locker room or to the weight room or to the training room or to the film room, I approached it as I'm a professional. I belong here, but I need to put the work in to show my teammates, my coaches that I belong. And when I did that, right, George, every day I just practiced what I preached every single day. And I kept doing it. I kept getting after it. I didn't stop. And that's how I had almost a 6-year career in the National Football. And so my mindset was to every day do better than I did yesterday.
Yeah. You know, most people don't know that in the NFL, professional football, that most contracts are, if you get injured, you're out. You know, there's not, you lose your particular contract. It's not a no cut situation in the majority of the players, especially during the time, I think, when you were going through, as you, the players, your teammates around you, as you saw them. Was Ray Lewis on the team at that time?
Yes, sir. I played with Ray Lewis. I surely did.
Okay. Well, Ray Lewis being a highly motivated and a highly skilled guy on defense, and that group had a tremendous defense during that particular time. But how did you feel knowing that any particular injury might end your career? Were you yearly looking at a fallback position, a pivot?
That's a great question, George. So when I was playing, I did not think about life after, because at the time, the NFL did not have a lot of the same things it has today. So I was kind of focused on my career, which made it difficult, right, George? When I was done playing, what do I do next? What am I good at? What do I belong? And so that's something that I struggled with immensely, George, for a long time. And so what I love about the game today, George, there is the NFL legends. There is the NFL Former Players Services and Foundation. There is the Gene Upshaw Trust Fund. There are all types of things today where current NFL players, right, George, can go and do things and get internships while they're still playing in the off season. They can go and shadow people in the finance world, the insurance world. They can work in big tech companies or things like FedEx or, all these Home Depot. Like, it's so amazing, George, how far the NFL has come to let their current players have access to figuring out what they might want to do whenever their career is over. Again, George, like broadcast boot camps, right? They're teaching guys how to be sports broadcasters, launch a podcast, communicate, educate, inspire. I love that. So I didn't have that, but I did have a father who was all about just education. So I knew I wanted to use my education in some degree, but I didn't know what that was going to look like as far as a career after the NFL.
Right. And we have a young man here in this area that played in the NFL, and Louis Murphy. You may have heard of Louis, who played with the Tampa Buccaneers and who has now started his business career with Tropical Smoothie, and it's kind of had some of those resources that he's pulled on. And as well, I've worked with him quite a bit, mentoring him as well. So the NFL has a great program, as does the NBA and some of the other professional teams also. Tell us about you start your business career and give us some understanding of what you went through there. Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. So yeah, George, when I left the National Football League, I struggled for about 6 months with alcohol addiction, painkiller addiction. Our father had passed away about 1.5 years prior to that. I literally was just struggling every single day. I was going through my days with no purpose, no direction, no sort of like, where am I? No blueprint, no ambition, right, George? And then finally, I put the bottle down and I got into construction because I went to an event. How about this, George? I went to an event at Morgan State and I heard Congressman Elijah Cummings say something very profound. He said, the next minority contractor, the next big minority contractor is somewhere in this room. And that contractor will create a table where other minorities can come and sit and do big business. And that struck me. That hit me hard. And what happened is my business partner and I were there. We met a client named Mannequin Construction. did some work for them, started out as a small concrete contractor in Baltimore City, and things were going well. But then when my mentor went out of business, right, George, a huge vacancy opened up in what's called site work or earth work. And at the time it was called the Division II package. So we stepped in and we did all kinds of earthwork, hauling, grading, stone, concrete, you name it, we did it. And we became the largest African-American owned subcontractor in the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland for 2 years. But what happened is, George, as the company grew, and in May of 2011, I won an award for the top minority contractor of the year. And when that happened, George, my ego, my bravado, it got massive. You couldn't tell me anything. You couldn't speak to me. You couldn't say, Marques, you're making a mistake. Unless you were my business partner, I didn't want to hear it. And I created, George, this horrible, awful, toxic culture where all was always about me. It was me, money, money, money. Forget everybody else. Forget everything else. And what happened is, George, most of my best employees, they resigned, they quit. I had a job I was on for a big client go south. I spent about $3 million of my money in less than 90 days on the project. And I ended up going bankrupt when the contractor and the developer denied my change order, and the bank shut me down on December 23rd, 2012. And I ended up losing everything, George, my home, all my money, my cars, everything. And I had to move to Raleigh, North Carolina with only $400 to my name. That's it.
Wow. That's a story. That's a story. And your partner, what you and your partner split at the time?
Yes. So as soon as everything went south, we split, and I was doing anything and everything, George, just to pay the bills, trying to hang on, trying to close up the business, trying to take care of things. I'll tell you this, George, from December 20, from the end of December until the beginning of April, the end of December 2012 to the beginning of April 2013 were probably some of the most stressful, horrific months of my life. Because every day was a constant battle just to not end it all. I was tired of all the stress. I had to shut this down. I had to do this. I was losing that. I was getting calls from the contracts that we work with, all of our suppliers, you name it. It was just horrible in every sense of the word.
So at this time is when you did the pivot, when you started pivoting and moving forward. Tell us what you went through there and how you turned that, or how you pivoted.
So, George, I ended up moving to Raleigh, as I said, with $400 to my name, didn't know a soul. Thank goodness the NFL, and matter of fact, George, that was the first year of NFL Legends, NFL Player Care Foundation. So I was almost homeless, George. I was a week away from being homeless. But the NFL Trust, they approved a grant that I applied for because I was broke. And they paid 4 months of my bill, so I didn't go homeless. I was working for a corporation. I got fired from that job, went to another company the next day, got fired from that job 5 days later. I was fired 2 times, George, in the same week, which is really talented and really awful at the same time. I ended up taking a job as a custodian working in downtown Raleigh for $8.25 an hour on the graveyard shift from 10 p.m. until 5 a.m. And what happened is, George, I hit rock bottom on my shift. I was taking the trash out, and I went to throw the trash in the trash can. There was a rip, George, on the front side of the bag that I could not see. I went to throw that trash, George. All that trash, all that rotten meat, all that nasty, protruding, horrible smelling garbage, right, George, got all over me. And that was my wake-up call. One of my favorite people to quote in my work is J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series. She wrote that when she was broke, when she was living in her car, when she was traveling around different coffee shops, just trying to keep herself afloat. And she wrote Harry Potter, and she was broke when she did it. And now she's the first and only billionaire author in the world. And it's all in that regard. So at the end of the day, it's really been, awesome on that front, as far as what I've learned from her. And what happened is I ended up using one of her quotes. Rock bottom is the moment that rebuilt my life. And that's exactly what I looked at. And I said, man, I'm at rock bottom. If I don't turn it around, I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. So I started to turn my stuff around. I started to work on what I needed to work on. And I said, let's start speaking. Started speaking in September 2013. Didn't get a paid job until April 2016, 2.5 years later. And then I got my first paid job. Then I got my second paid job in 2017 with the Buffalo Bills NFL football team. 2018, I met Mel Robbins, and I was able to get, mentored by her, which was amazing. And I learned the business, George. So in the last 10 years since I got my first paid job, we worked for over 90 Fortune 500 companies. I'm a 5-time best-selling author. We're a top 0.5% most popular podcast worldwide. All these things are moving in the right direction, and we're so grateful for that. But again, I had to learn how to bounce back after hitting rock bottom in that regard.
A couple of things that I'd like to ask: how did faith play any part in your turning things around?
George, it was everything. I've always been a person of faith, always. I said, at the end of the day, I said, you know what? Learning from my grandmother, faith drove me in every sense of the word. So I never, ever stopped believing. I had times where I was mad at God because my dad died or I lost my business. I'm always honest about that. But I never, ever stopped believing. I never, ever stopped in that regard. So I tell people constantly, at the end of the day, for me, faith was a huge part of my journey. I never gave up. I kept pushing. I kept going through adversity, obstacles, hardship, and I just never stopped believing in myself. And I tell people that is the number one key to your long-term success and sustainability. You have to be able to have self-confidence and believe in yourself. If you don't have that, what will happen is when times get hard or times get challenging, you're not going to push through. George, we've been invited for our first TEDx speaking engagement in Missoula, which is outside of Toronto, Canada. And we're speaking on, George, the power of breakthrough. I got an email, George, last night from them. Marques, your story is so inspiring. We're going to have you as the opening keynote speaker for the entire TEDx conference in Toronto. That's how much, George, I had to learn how to break through. But I'll tell you this, having faith and never, ever allowing it to break, not get it bent, and I don't know, it was through struggling time, but it never broke. My faith, George, was a huge part of my coming back and being resilient along the way.
That's great. That's a great story. And I would say that your Howard University motto of Bison, the Bison theory, was applied there also. Moving straight to the storm.
Oh, George, it was everything. Because again, right, George, I tell everybody the same thing. What happened for me is I was able to lean on, how to talk about everything and just never, ever give up. So the acronym for Bison is B, boldness, I, integrity, S, self-awareness, O, ownership, N, never, ever quit. I never, ever quit. I was always bold. I was always full of integrity. I was always self-aware. I always owned everything, good, bad, or indifferent. And I never, ever quit. Once I got that type of setup right, George, that's when life got so much better. But absolutely, the Bison mentality, the Bison mindset was totally part of that entire process.
Mm-hmm. Well, Marcus, I tell you, your story has been really heartwarming. It's the first time I've heard it, and your success with your speaking engagements and how you pivoted and turned your story around has been quite amazing. I'm sure our audience will gain a lot of great tools from everything that you've said here. Is there something that you would like to say to the audience before that will be on your social media or any marketing that we do from this podcast? Is there anything you'd like to say to our folks, our audience?
My favorite quote, I'll say it, and I hope your audience really embodies this. Never ever tell your mind negative thoughts in a joking manner. Your body cannot dissimulate the difference. Words cast spells. That's why it's called spelling. Choose how you talk to yourself and choose wisely. Bruce Lee. What that means is you have to be your biggest supporter, your biggest cheerleader, and you have to have the mindset and don't talk bad about yourself. Don't say you don't have what it takes. Don't say you're not smart enough. Don't say you're not courageous enough. Don't say you're not this. Don't say you're not that. Because if you keep saying that, your mind will believe that. And your mind will start to shut down. And your mind will say, you know what? This is too hard. This is too complicated. I'm out. But you say, I'm strong enough. I'm courageous enough. I'm talented enough. Your mind will say, okay, it's hard, but we're here to hit it and hit it. We're here to face it head on. And that's how our podcast, George, went from launching 4 years ago to the top 0.5% this year, getting people like Katina Mobley on, or athletes and actresses and business leaders, and people that are in there. We have a long backlog, George, of people that want to come onto our podcast. That's because we have the Bison mindset and we never, ever stop believing in ourselves. So again, Bruce Lee's quote, again, I'll say it one more time. Never, ever tell your mind negative thoughts in a joking manner. Your body cannot dissimulate the difference. Words cast spells. That's why it's called spelling. Choose how you talk to yourself and choose wisely. Bruce Lee.
Marcus, it's been great. We're glad and honored to have you on our podcast, where we speak of turning obstacles to opportunities. And our book Catch as Catch Can has been a bestseller, and we're doing a number of different speaking engagements myself as I move into my latter years after a long career in business, over 40 plus years. So glad to have you on the program. Great message, and I wish you all the success in the world. And we hope to stay in touch with you as you continue to grow your career.
Same, my friend. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, and I appreciate you all very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been Catch as Catch Can. The game isn't over. Your success story is just getting started. Head to tinsleyspeaks.com for exclusive content, resources, and opportunities. Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., a production of Live Stream Editors.